Hi, how's it going? Today I thought I would make a little video because I am working on some pet fiber. So I've still been working on that Great Pyrenees fluff. I do love to blend pet fiber with wool just because it makes it a little bit stronger and it gives it a little bit more color variation, so it's a little bit more beautiful to look at, because when we're working with pet fiber, we're mostly working with the undercoat of an animal, which tends to be a little bit more of a dull or gray version of their natural coat. With Pyrenees, it's still a nice light cream or white color, but we still have to worry a little bit about dryness and its ability to adhere to itself. So if you'll notice, I put a big gob of moisturizer on my hand there so I can keep adding moisturizer. That keeps the static down and also allows me to stick everything together so it gets the right amount of twist in it. You will notice that I'm also wearing an apron this time, and that's because this Pyrenees fluff is stinky. This is a working dog. He eats, sleeps, and drinks with his sheep, and his fur smells like it too. So it is quite dirty work. And unlike wool, I do not wash the fiber ahead of time, because there is a risk of it matting while I wash it, and then it is unusable. This is especially true with cat hair, where it'll just felt on itself and then is just like a puck of dense fur, so you won't be able to spin anything with it. However, if you're into felting, I would definitely recommend cat hair. It works very well for that. Moisturizer, so we can see that I blended this with wool. So it's a silk merino blend. I believe this is Ashford from New Zealand. I cannot remember the name of the color. I want to say root beer, but that's probably not right. But I believe it's going to turn into a nice earthy looking yard. And it's going to be very strong as well. I'm able to spin it quite thin, which is always nice, because the thinner we go with pet fiber, the further it goes. And I'm going to make some ornaments out of this to demonstrate. You might be able to hear Grub snoring behind my phone here. He's just sitting right next to me having his afternoon nap. He's a pug mix, so he has that little smush face that makes him a loud breather. Poor little fella. Bit of a gloomy day today, but I hesitate to complain because it is undoubtedly spring. We've got green grass finally, fresh smelling air. I do my best to card out all the debris in there, but every once in a while I miss a little chunk of grass. I'll just have to stop to pluck that out. Another nice sign of spring is we found a bird's nest right next to my son's bus stop, so we've been monitoring her progress. There's a pigeon, a nice beige colored pigeon, and I'm sure she's guarding some eggs in there. So hopefully one day soon we'll be able to see some babies. Gotta remember to relax my thumb. And my arm. I'm bad for wanting to be super scrunched up. It's not sustainable though, so I gotta remember to rest my arm on my lap. I don't have to hold it suspended the whole time. Having some puppy dreams. Oh, more moisture. It certainly is a lot more fun to spin pet fiber blended with wool. It can go a lot faster and it breaks a lot less. I feel some grass coming up here. There we go. Sometimes when it's finished, I'll go over it with the tweezers again while I wind it up just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Clouds are getting smaller and smaller. You need to have that pet fiber really loose and fluffy. Just like our pet's fur can get matted on their bodies, it can so in my hands. This can be a nice activity if you've got a song stuck in your head to make it match the tempo. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Always the challenge with spinning is to make your hand speed match your feet. It's always a lot easier to pedal faster than it is to move your hands. You have to make sure to make it match. Someone like me who has no chill, then you can put way too much twist in your yarn. That can make everything else kind of tricky, like making it balance and not spring up into a big messy ball. For an adjustment, I'm getting a little thick in the middle. There we go. right now I'm in the process of making a few samples of different types of pet fiber and different ways I can blend it so people can see it and touch it with their hands. Still struggling with how to advertise. A little nervous to post it on Facebook Marketplace. It's a little weird on there sometimes, so I feel hesitant to open myself up to it. Even trying to give away things for free on Facebook Marketplace has been kind of interesting. Someone will beg me for something. I was a backpack and a lunch kit, and I responded to the first person, said, yeah, you can have it, no problem. Make arrangements to meet them, never hear from them again. Never saw them. Offered it to the next person, they never got back to me. I still have the backpack and lunch kit. And it's hard to give away stuff for free, let alone sell them, so I'm a little bit not too sure how to go about letting people know that I can do this. Also, another thing to consider is how do I help people see it in a different light? To a lot of people, it's still pretty gross, and I get that. You spend your whole life trying to get rid of pet hair on your clothes and furniture and in your food, depending on the kind of pets you have. My animals are pretty good at staying out of the kitchen, or at least on cooking surfaces. But I am still always afraid when I like bake somebody cookies or invite them over for dinner that they're gonna get a big mouthful of hair. So I get not always looking at pet fiber as the most lovely thing. It's kind of interesting how we perceive things. We have no problem sleeping, well, most people who have pets don't mind sleeping in the bed with them or sitting on the couch with them, but you would never do the same with a sheep or an alpaca. But the idea of wearing the pet's fur is pretty hard to overcome. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure I would wear a sweater or a scarf made for my pet. But I do certainly enjoy the wall hangings that I've made from them. And I know they'll be all the more precious someday because of that unfortunate fact that, especially dogs, they don't get to live as long as us. So all of these items will eventually be memorial items, as I think I said before. So I want to treat it with the honor it deserves. Just a nice big stretch of white. I always like when you can see clearly which fiber is the animal's. You always want to be able to pinpoint where they are. Make an adjustment even down. There we go. It's looking pretty lovely so far. I'm optimistic. It's going to turn out nicely. So this is the third step. First step was going through it initially, fluffing it up, loosening it, pulling out debris where I can. Then the next step is carding it on its own, again, to remove debris. And then a second time I card it with the wool to blend them together. And then I finally get to start spinning it. Once it's all spun, I wind it all off of the wheel into a ball of yarn so I can ply both ends together so that it's got 2 plies in there and make it nice and strong. And again, a little more color depth. And then from there, I'll wrap it on the nitty knotty, which is kind of like a special stick at odds, if you don't know. And you wind it all up into a hank. I'll show you what I have so far. So this is just a little bit of sheep fiber, wool that I've spun up. So you wrap it all up, then you tie it in figure eights. You pull it off the nitty knotty, and then I can wash it that way. And while I'm up, I'll show you, this is the yarn we were working on last time. Turned out quite a beautiful color. Very soft to the touch, very soft. Not as big of a quantity as I wanted because I tangled it while I was moving it off the yarn swift, which is like a big umbrella type thing that spins. So I could wind it up into a ball, and a little bit got tangled around the base of the swift, and I had to cut a bunch off, which always hurts my feelings when I have to do that, but it is part of it. So I made a strategy for that not happening again, because wasting stuff when it's already finished, guess that's show business, baby, but still hurts. So after I tie it up on the nitty knotty, I will pull it off and into a sink with scouring soap. And then I kind of agitate it gently, which means I'm just going to swish it back and forth and remove debris. Sometimes that can take quite a few tries until the water runs clear, especially when it's grubby like this fiber. And then I do one more wash with the lanolin to make it strong. And then usually when it's like this type of fiber, I will add another condition, just to make it a little bit softer, because it can get quite coarse after multiple washings. So you want to restore it somewhat so that it's nice to the touch. Because for some people, they may choose to never make anything from the yarn. They might be just keeping the yarn itself. Or maybe they could take off a little bit occasionally and put a braid around their wrist, or tie a little bow on their keychain, something that makes them think of the animal. And sometimes death is not the only way we have to say goodbye to our animals. Sometimes we need to rehome or bring them to a shelter because our life circumstances change. And I just wanted to take a moment to give a little compassion to people who find themselves in that situation. That I know it's not a choice easily made to give up an animal. And to admit you can't give them the life that they need, or you can't afford them and their health care. Because it's not simple as it used to be. It's very expensive to get the proper vet care for your animals now, and it's not always possible. Maybe we lose a job, or maybe we lose a home, and our new place doesn't allow animals. Maybe you start growing your family and the animal doesn't like the new family member. That happens a lot of the time when a baby is introduced to a household. And the pet doesn't adjust, and then it becomes dangerous for everyone. So that's another reason we might make that hard choice. And I just wanted to say I understand. And that people who need to rehome their animals are not bad people. It's just life is like that sometimes. And having a bit of them to keep might be a nice thing in those situations too. Just about done my fluff for the moment. I'll leave it fluffy on the end so it's easy to find. I have quite a bit to go, but it goes quickly. I get to take the rest of my moisturizer and make sure my skin's nice and soft. This smells like lemon. It's pretty nice, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the citrus scents, but it does feel very nice. Got my closet right here to store everything, just to show. So on its own, this is Pyrenees on its own. I don't know if we can see. There's a lovely, what we would call a halo around there where it's fluffy. It looks almost luminous. The goal, though, is to reduce shedding as much as possible. This isn't too bad. You would be able to use it to make clothing or decorations or whatever. I would suggest being very careful with it as well, though, because it is 100% Pyrenees and it's not going to be as flexible as wool, but it is got a nice squish to it, and I managed to get most of the wet dog smell out of it. That's always going to be one of my main goals, is that you're not going to walk around smelling like dog or cat in the end. And I can give a little peek what we spun today, and a little grub snapping. Hi, sleepy grubs. And this is our Pyrenees and wool that we're working on today. So lots of different tones in there. I'm curious to see how it will turn out. Thank you for joining me if you have, and have a good day. Bye-bye.